Arkansas and Tennessee are the latest states to sign anti-transgender legislation into law. Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson signed a bill Friday allowing doctors to refuse treatment based on religious or moral beliefs, and he signed a law Thursday banning transgender women and girls from playing on women's sports teams. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signed a bill Friday making it mandatory for student athletes to compete on teams coinciding with their sex at birth. Mississippi passed a similar law 2 weeks ago. Dozens of other states are considering legislation aimed at restricting or banning trans athletes. This comes during a push on Capitol Hill to pass the Equality Act. The proposed bill would change federal law to ensure protections for LGBTQ Americans. This includes things like employment, housing, medical care, education, and more. Joining us now is Stella Keating. She is the youngest transgender person to speak before the Senate in support of the Equality Act. She's also a founding champion of the GenderCool Project. Stella, great to have you with us. So before we even get into some of the questions that we have, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to those setbacks that have happened just since you testified before Congress earlier this year. How are you feeling with this news?
I'm definitely very upset. I'm not a very sporty person. I'm not competitive and I don't play a lot of sports just in school and in general, I really haven't. And not a lot of my transgender friends that I have met, are competitive athletes and want to be. A lot of the reason that transgender girls and any transgender and non-binary people join sports is because they want to form, bonds with other people. They want to learn teamwork and leadership, and they want to, work with others because those things really help build you up for the future of your life. And so it really disappoints me that, and they want to hang out with their friends too. And it really disappoints me that there are people in the world, and specifically in United States, that don't want me to play with my friends with sports. I actually wanted to join my girls' high school bowling team because I wanted to just hang out with my friends. And so it just is really disappointing that there are people that don't want me to hang out and play with my friends.
Stella, part of, I think, what has captured so many people's hearts across the country in hearing your testimony and in hearing you now is how you are an advocate for your community, but you're also just an ordinary kid in so many ways. But you're fighting for the Equality Act. And as you say, you're not a big sports person. You're not interested in capturing your high school record or anything like that. But there is an importance, you say, in being able to acknowledge trans youth as full people, able to be part of their community, be part of their school teams, and, as you say, be able to play with your friends. Why are you so passionate about the Equality Act? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, for me, the Equality Act, I'm a sophomore in high school, and I'm about to be a junior, in a few months. And that also means that I have to start looking at colleges. And there is a high chance that I could choose a college in a state that doesn't protect me. And so I have to be more cautious about where I go. I have to think about, will I be protected and safe wherever I go? And, then when I move off from college and I'm living on my own and I have to go to restaurants, I have to go to doctors, I can be denied in over half the states in this country. I could be denied medical care from any doctor just because I'm transgender, and I could be denied going into a restaurant and eating in a restaurant just because I'm transgender. And so for me, the Equality Act really means that I can have the freedom to go where I need to and want to be. And the Equality Act just is a protection and a safety barrier. And so.
Well, Wednesday is International Transgender Day of Visibility. It's a day to celebrate the accomplishments of transgender people. It also highlights how trans people are fighting to enjoy equal protection, equal justice under the law. How do you think we ultimately achieve that goal?
You know, I think that there is a lot of work that needs to be done, but I think that the Equality Act is the first step in the right direction. I think that the Equality Act is so incredibly important because there are so many transgender and non-binary people in the United States that are not protected and that don't feel safe. And we need to make sure that they do feel safe. And, I think that one of the next steps that we need to take is also education, an education on what does being transgender mean, and creating more inclusive learning opportunities in schools to do that. But I do think that the Equality Act is our first big step in the correct and right direction.
And Stella, you testified before Congress earlier this week. If you had the opportunity to speak with those governors who recently passed this restrictive legislation that wouldn't allow trans kids like yourself to be fully involved in your school because you lived in one of those states, what would you want to tell them, those governors?
I think that my personal goal is to not change minds. My goal is to simply just share the fact that I am just a regular kid. I have I have a job. I have, I still live with my parents. I spend way too much time on my phone. I'm literally just a normal kid. And I think that that's what my real goal is. I know that I also can't change their minds either. And so what I really would just want to share with them and with these governors that are passing these bills into law is like, I'm really just a normal kid. There's nothing different about me. There's just one small tiny thing, and that's that I'm transgender. And that's not even a whole part of who I am. I'm so much more than that. I'm someone who aspires to be a politician. I'm someone who wants to go to college. I'm someone who likes hanging out with my friends. And, that's just kind of like, that's who I am. And being transgender is not that. It's not my whole self. And I think that that's a common, people often might think that that is what, that's all that I am. And so I just want to share with them, like, it's not. I really am just normal. I really just want to live my own normal life. And so, yeah.
Well, you are normal, but you're abnormal, Stella, because you are so involved. You are so you have been involved in politics since the age of 9. You want to be a force for change and good and in this world, and you are very involved in something called the GenderCool Project. And before we let you go, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about your organization and what you're hoping to achieve.
Yeah. So I am part of the GenderCool Project, and I'm one of the 5 founding champions. And there are now 17 others. And we are all part of a movement, and we live all across the country. We are a diverse group of people, and we just want the world to understand that, like I said, we're all normal kids. And, after we launched a few years ago, the corporate world found us because they recognize that we are the next gen workforce, and we are the future of business executives and software engineers and nurses and politicians. And they understand that we want to work in places where we belong. And so that's really what the GenderCool is all about, is to create a safe work environment.
Well, Stella, you are an ordinary kid, but you're also extraordinary. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.